Good morning, my fellow parishioners of Assumption. I'm sort of reminded this morning of a Italian phrase, but my Italian is a little rusty, but I'll just say that what I remember is il dopo 40, okay, a different ill in la mattina, right? Different ill after you're 40. And we're talking about Lent. And yesterday, Jesus was mentioning, okay, in the Gospels that we're going to be faced with a period of intense suffering. And he mentions today in the Gospel what this actually is going to mean for us as Christians, as Catholics, in this period of Lent, which is going to lead up, of course, to his passion and death, and of course, his resurrection. Jesus mentions something really in the Gospel that's very, very challenging to us all, and it requires a lot. What he says is that in order for us to actually experience his life, we must surrender our own for his sake. What does he really mean by that? Well, for us individually, I think, we're challenged to think why he would say something like that. Jesus often talks about in parables, and he says, well, the kingdom of heaven is like something. But in this case, he doesn't compare it to anything. He's saying this directly, that we must surrender our life. He who loses it for my sake will gain it. This is a paradox, of course, rather than a parable. And I think what's important to remember is that Jesus is going to be called into a period of sacrifice. And I think he's calling for us to also be part of that sacrifice. So the period of Lent for us would probably be like, and I will use this as a metaphor, like walking through the desert. And the desert, it's bleak, it's sometimes forbidding, it's uncertain, and we're going to be asked to actually walk in those footsteps of his suffering, keeping in mind that we need to go inside ourselves, right inside our hearts, where we're going to find, the true love and life of Christ. Father Esteban a few weeks ago mentioned in his homily that in order to do this, we have to actually keep silent for a bit. And Lent is going to call us for the next 40 days to be silent and to really listen to what Jesus is trying to tell us in the Gospels. Certainly we're going to see miracles and things, of course, in his life that will show his real presence. 2,000 years ago, of course, this happened. But every year, it occurs again, right here in our lives, right here in Assumption, right here for billions of Catholics all around the globe. So the challenge is great, and it's not to be taken lightly, because this is a real period where we can participate in the actual life of Christ, the life that he is asking us to become part of, to fully participate in, so then we ourselves can walk that Via Dolorosa. And as he said, okay, come follow me, take up your cross. And in Lent, that's what we're asked to do. Go inside, take up our cross, and follow him. 2,000 years ago, Jesus walked on the Via Dolorosa, and it was paved with stone. Today, 2,000 years later, I think that Via Dolorosa, in my mind, is more like shifting sand. It makes it even more difficult because you also remember in the Stations of the Cross, Simon of Cyrene, perhaps just a tourist, bystander, just check things out, see what was all this commotion was about. He was pressed into service, wasn't he, to carry the cross. We're all pressed into that service, particularly Catholics, Christians, but everybody has to walk the Via Dolorosa. Let me just put this in perspective in human terms, if I may. There was a video on YouTube, and I think it puts this in perspective that this is a message of hope and not just bleakness. And if you would check it out, I would suggest going to the website that says 10-year-old boy, autistic boy, and just type that in. And I think you'll see why the real message is about life, is about why we hope, is about why there is light in darkness. Thank you, and I hope to see all of you at the Stations of the Cross, and certainly on Easter Sunday. Good night.
Buenos días. La reflexión de hoy es del Evangelio de Lucas 9, 22 al 25. En este Evangelio, Jesús nos hace la invitación, una invitación que se basa en el amor, una invitación que se basa en ese amor que Él nos tuvo, que Él dio su vida por nosotros, que Él sacrificó tanto dolor por nosotros. Ese amor que nosotros debemos de sentir hacia el prójimo, ese amor que nosotros debemos de sentir hacia las personas que están al día a día con nosotros, ese amor que uno debe de enseñarle a ayudar a los demás, a ser tolerables con nuestros seres queridos, compañeros del trabajo. Cada cosa que uno hace día a día debe de ser por ese amor, con ese amor, porque Él fue nuestro ejemplo. Al negarnos a nosotros mismos, eso debe de ser, nosotros negarnos a salir de ese amor, a nosotros a dejar el ego, a dejar la envidia, a dejar ese rencor que uno siente en el corazón de uno y perdonar. A dar gracias por las cosas buenas que nosotros tenemos, por la salud, por el trabajo, por la familia. Pero también a dar gracias por esas cruces, esas situaciones dolorosas que uno pasa día a día. La cruz que uno carga es más liviana si es que tú se la entregas a Jesús. Jesús nos mostró el camino, pero Él camina con nosotros. Nosotros debemos de seguir el ejemplo que Él nos dejó. Nosotros debemos de ser amor. Todo lo que Él nos ha enseñado, tenemos que dejar que Él, abrir nuestros corazones y dejar que Él nos transforme. Que Él nos transforme a nosotros, para nosotros transformar a la familia, para nosotros transformar a nuestros hijos, para nosotros servirles de ejemplo a ellos de la vida, del amor de Jesús. Renunciemos a nuestras comodidades, renunciemos a los rencores, abramos nuestro corazón y entreguémoslo a Él. Él es el único que puede, Él es el único que nos levanta, Él es el único que no nos va a dejar caer, que en cada caída Él va a estar ahí. Él no te deja solo, hermano.